This episode contains sensitive content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Culture Podcast, where we uncover the hidden mechanics of high control groups, their tactics, and their impact. And we speak with the survivors who broke free. My name is Derek, and I'm your host.
My name is Trinity, and I'm also your host. On this podcast, we explore cult life as real people who have lived through the life-changing process of leaving a high control group.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello.
Today, we're actually joined also by a really special guest. We're joined by my other sister, Jessica. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we were regaling a few stories before we started recording. Like I did just mention, we did just chat with my sister a little bit ago. By the time this podcast comes out, that's episode's been live. And obviously this story is about you, but there will be some cross sections. But we're really looking forward to hearing kind of your own personal story. This podcast being a podcast about people growing up in high control groups or cults is somewhat of the theme. But as we find talking with people, there's also some themes of some abuse, some trauma, some things like that just kind of innately happen as we grow up, just in this world that we live in. So we're just kind of going to set the stage and just ask kind of the audience who doesn't know you, who you are now, who's Jessica?
I'm a realtor currently in California. I'm a mom. I'm a Mimi. I have a grandson, but I go by Mimi. I have found my faith, but that took me many, many years to find faith on my own terms, as I like to call myself, a recovering Jehovah's Witness. And
I love that.
I can tell you when you brought this idea, I was like all about it, just over the moon about it. And as I've listened to your episodes with you and Trent, now I feel like I know Trent because I listen to all your episodes as they come out and share them with everybody. Everyone's like, I know already. Like, did you listen to it? Did you share it? I'm really pumped about the whole thing. But I found listening to all the other episodes, it brought up a lot of feelings that I don't think I was prepared to have when I heard other people talking about what they related as trauma growing up in this high control group, something like what we grew up in as Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was really interesting to me that it's just something, unless you were in this sort of high control group that I definitely refer to as a cult.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really understand the goings on that we grew up with without having something really similar.
Part of why we're trying to make a little community of people who do get it, because
I love that.
there's more of us than we think.
Oh yeah.
Well, and what I was going to say too is it's really interesting as someone, and we will touch on this later, who has found a new faith. It's interesting to compare, a church or a religion or a faith that you have, versus something as so high control. And there really is a delineation there. There's a genuine line that kind of starts to separate that experience. And that's why we love having these conversations to give people this space to kind of tell their story and their life, and just hopefully people that have a curiosity will listen, and maybe just even if they can understand a little bit more about how we approach things, why we are the way we are, because of how we grew up.
I love that.
Even if someone just takes away, hey, your witness friend might have some trauma, that would be good enough for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd get an extra hug out of that.
Yes. Well, just before you started this, I was with clients, and I've known the woman for a long time, and she's engaged, and she introduced her fiance Dan, and we started talking about church. And I said, "Oh, this church I go to, do you guys go to church?" And he said, "No, I grew up in this real kind of, weird situation." I said, "Oh, what was it?" He goes, "I was a Jehovah's Witness." And I'm like, shut the front door. We immediately have community, right? And so he says, "Yeah, I was an elder." And one of the things that just, like one of the things I really missed was being part of this community. Like it's a real lockdown community. You have your family and not being able to come to book study and all the things he said. It was just before we had chatted about the podcast coming out, before you guys started this. And I thought it's so interesting when I meet people in my age group, we're grown, we have grown children, to be on the other side of it and see things so much differently. And then there can be both, right? There can be the good and the bad. They're both present. Like having that community and people that are like family is a really good thing.
Oh yeah.
But when you distort that and you traumatize people and you pull them out of it and tell them their own families can't talk to them, that's obviously not how God's love works. Obviously. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious to everyone on the other side of this. But talking to someone growing up in that and being part of that as an adult, choosing to have that, it was really interesting. It made me really think about how many things I didn't question as a child that I now question as an adult.
It means more when you choose it for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, and it's I feel like it's a slow process, and Trent and I have talked about this before, where and not to jump ahead, but as you kind of get out of it, you really do have to do a lot of self exploration. Where do you land? Where do you decide to land? And I'm really comfortable with the idea of multiple landings.
Uh-huh.
You maybe go, maybe I'm going to try this, and it doesn't work out. Whether it's a different religion, or kind of going atheist or agnostic. And but I really love when people like yourself do finally find their niche, and they kind of find their lane of like, this is what makes me feel good and makes me feel at home and comfortable, and maybe having some sort of path in life that they want to follow.
Mhm.
But in terms of paths, so it's obviously taken you many years to get to where you're at now. Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
All the way back.
So just kind of starting out here, what was your life really early on? Just kind of growing up in a child, and I mean even early on before you met my dad.
Yeah. Well, I was born into the Jehovah's Witness religion. So I didn't have any choice in the matter. It was all I knew. And in way of being on lockdown, we really only were allowed to associate with members of our congregation. I It was strongly discouraged that I was able to play with any neighbor kids or anyone who was not in our immediate congregation. And then there were pretty watchful eyes even when we were outside of our congregation. And then you have groups of additional congregations that meet as one body at like circuit assemblies. Those that could be your extended group, but you're really on kind of lockdown where everything that you know is also what your friends know. There's no outside influence. And I see that so much differently now than I did then. I didn't have the world view for anything other than what I was told. And neither did anybody else around me. So interesting way to grow up where you're just told to not question anything. This is how things are. And you really take for granted that anything else could be true.
Yeah. Do you remember any moments kind of growing up, and at this time, well, I guess in the time frame, so you're one of four children.
Hmm. I'm the oldest of four. Yeah.
And then what was kind of day-to-day life, maybe even growing up with your siblings and everything like that? What did that look like?
A lot of meetings. So we had book study Tuesday, big meeting Thursday, Sunday, big meeting as well. Saturday was service. We had meeting for service. My grandma, my mom's mom was a pioneer, and I was really close to her. So I spent a lot of time at her congregation, a lot of time in service. When I was little, I loved going in service with my grandma. I loved going on return visits with her. Like I really enjoyed that. We passed a Labu the other day, and I said to my girlfriend, that was like our treat at noon when we called it from service. We'd go get chocolate croissants.
Oh, nice. Yep.
There were a lot of good things about it. I liked being out. I liked getting dressed up. I still do. I loved getting dressed up for all the meetings and for Saturday morning and going door to door and chatting with people at the door. And those were some of my really fond memories were being out with my grandma, with my grandma's friends, going door to door and witnessing to people. And my grandmother, when she passed in 2012, had 77 Bible studies going.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this woman
Wow.
was convincing.
Wow.
So she was like, "Oh, you're in the dumps. You're whatever your problem is. Like, I'm going to fix it if you agree to a Bible study and if you agree to be part of what I'm doing." And people, she was really a good influencer, and people followed her.
Yeah.
So I think I have a lot of respect for my grandmother, and I think her vision of how she saw things personally, I followed suit with and appreciated that. Although there were a lot of other influences in my life that I didn't have the same appreciation for how they did things.
Yeah.
But her exclusively, like, I had a lot. I had a lot of good memories of
If she was alive today, her Instagram account would be just incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, be on fire.
fire.
She would have so many followers.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
I I can tell Jess that I can tell that we loved the truth in the same way. Oh, I just said the truth.
Uh-huh.
It was the truth to me
No,
back
no,
then,
right?
and like I had a deep love for it. I was always out in service. Like my life was very similar to yours. My mother and sister would always pioneer. I was always supporting them, and
Uh-huh.
it was just so beautiful and fun, especially that age. Like everything's kind of magical.
Yeah.
How were you in the Kingdom Hall? Were you growing up like, "I gotta do the comments, I gotta"
Yeah.
were you all about that as well?
I was. We practiced. I mean, from as early before our parents got together, and then I think that was even pushed at a harder level once our families joined, because then we had a real head of household. My mom wasn't running shit when your dad came along. Like, things got real quick. And when you're as a father, as the head of the household, you are at least in this religion, you are supposed to be the head of household. You're supposed to be running the show spiritually, financially, all of the ways. Like, it stops with you. And so it was really pushed at that point that we had answers. We bring highlighters to our Bible study as a well, and even as kids at the dining room table studying for those things, we needed to have answers prepared. And then it was a big deal. I mean, I remember it being a big deal when my brothers had the opportunity to run the mics around. When you raise your hand, you get called on. It was we had a lot of praise about that from our parents. Like, oh,
Mhm.
good job, you did a really good job, answering and making sure that you did your research on why you answered this way. It was it was like high praise that we were paying attention and that we were really pulling it together at meeting.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Did they give you praise over non-witness things too, or was it restricted mostly to witness stuff?
I only honestly, I recall the praise coming from meetings, meening for service, giving talks, staying, being going door to door. It was really tied to the how do I word that? Like, it was all tied to the religion and
The deliverables,
yeah,
the metric counting. Yeah,
very interesting. Like, yeah, because it really wasn't tied to anything else. In fact, quite the opposite. The way that I wanted,
mine was the same. I just grew up in similar.
the way I wanted to dress,
Yeah,
yeah, everything else was a problem except for if you're doing things the right way, you're going to meeting, you're answering, you're preparing your answers, you're going out in service, ministry is your life, and you're on track to like find a nice brother and get married.
Yeah.
Otherwise, whatever you're doing, it is incorrect.
I think that this is part of the very simple Pavlovian training that pretty much all witnesses end up in,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, and I've said this when I was talking to Jen and maybe Natty too. I feel like the elders are constantly being judged by their brother, and they're always having meetings with them, etc.
Uh-huh.
And so they have to have this mask on that they kind of force their kids to put on too. And then
Mm-hmm.
they basically spend all their time trying to uphold that mask, that when they get home, they're real tired and lazy. And sometimes the family isn't getting like the normal family stuff. They really try to hit the witness stuff 100% because they're getting judged to high heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But then the private family home life is suffering. And I hear that just from so many people.
Right. No, I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, I think that there's a normal inclination, obviously you would know this, Jess, as a parent, to do those things for your children. To kind of like, hey, there's a reward system. Hey, this happens, that happens. But as you guys are saying, when it's only for the most part kind of around this religion or this high control group or cult, it just starts to be damaging.
Right.
Fair point.
And it's interesting that I didn't even consider that. This is what I mean about your podcast. There have been a lot of things that you've said and other guests have shared. And I think, wow, I didn't even realize that was something. I really took that for granted. And this is another one, really just having that praise around the religion and not in any other fashion.
And in any normal child's going to want to please their parent.
Hmm.
It's built into them. They want to. to look up to their father and mother and get that feeling for them. I often equate it to the mindset, and we never really we never grow out of this
Mhm.
to some extent, but it's the same mindset of as putting a little piece of artwork up on the fridge,
Right.
and you put it up there and the parent says great job and everyone sees it and you go, oh my gosh, that's such a great little
Uh-huh.
painting you did. It's not a good painting. It rarely is an actual good painting, but we don't do that to our children. We tell them nice things and we praise them, and as they get along, they get better, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's a horrible thing, but that's what we all grew up in.
Yeah.
So as you're progressing in the faith, in the truth,
Uh-huh.
did you ever get to the point of being an unbaptized publisher?
Yes. Yes. I think early on, maybe I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And were you giving parts on the stage?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that was my impetus to read, to memorize. I mean, I would say there are a few, the silver lining of this. And I read a book called Steering by Starlight. It's by this woman who was raised Mormon. And she kind of turns everything around as something that you equate with a bad experience, but something really good came out of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love public speaking. I'm great at memory. I love reading. I mean, all of those things came because of my need to get on the stage.
I've said verbatim.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I said
couldn't
that verbatim.
wait. Yeah.
So happy that I have those
Couldn't
things.
wait.
And also on the flip side, the unfortunate thing sometimes is the curse of having memory.
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
some of this stuff we can't forget.
True.
Okay, so then you're progressing. You're on the stage. You're giving talks. You're going out in service. Did you get kind of early conversations of like you need to get baptized?
Um, yes, and I think I started having a lot of feelings. I at a very young age had a lot of feelings that made me question everything and that nobody could answer. And this started from, I think I was 7 years old and we were at memorial service. And I'm counting the people in our congregation that are partaking. And that evening, my friend's mother had partaken the wine and the bread. And I just lost it. Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to have a mom in the paradise earth. They're, she's, what is going on? And my parents didn't seem to be very upset about any of this. And I thought that was strange. And that's when it came in my head at this young age that I needed a head count on the 144,000.
See where we are. Yeah.
Like
Same.
yes, that's what I wanted. Like, and I'm doing quick math in my brain on the way out of meeting of, 4 congregations meet at our Kingdom Hall. And if they each have 4, like there's 16
Yes,
where
I did the same math. That's crazy. What really scared me, it genuinely scared me one time because like 79,000 people partook. I look for the total number when they publish it each year.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, wait a second. If they're counting this shit back since day one,
Right.
how are they not full yet? Like, how is 80,000 people?
Yeah, that was my concern. Mhm.
So then I start doing mental gymnastics, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what if people from modern times are more important to Jehovah? So he grabbed a few from back then, and he's going to front load all the rest. The mental gymnastics. That's crazy that you said that. I've never heard another person tell me that.
Jess, are you able to? This is a spotlight quiz question
Yeah.
for people that may be listening that don't understand what the memorial is. Can you break that down?
It is the remembrance of Christ's death. Similar to what regular people that go by Christian or believer are celebrate Easter. This remembrance of Christ's death, this remembrance that He came back, just like the Bible gives us this story, right? But for Jehovah's Witnesses, it's something a little more than that. It's the remembrance of Christ's death, and then anyone who is partaking is part of this 144,000 that's going to heaven. Everybody else is going to a paradise earth. Not you or me. We're out of here. That's the way they explained it to me. We're all going to die. You're not believing. You're not going to be part of it. Everyone else is going to go to this paradise earth except for the folks that are in heaven.
Yeah.
But that experience just made me once I started questioning that, I'm like, well, now I'm questioning everything. You're telling me all these things are going to happen in paradise earth. Like, we're going to be friends with the animals and we're not going to eat them. Why do we eat animals now when we're not eating them then?
Yeah.
People just got sick of my questions. I had too many questions.
It's really frustrating that your powerful brain came to this
Yeah.
conclusion at 7.
Good job.
And mine took so much longer to get there. And then the interesting thing too about the memorial is you'd mentioned it, but not everyone partakes, but they still pass it. Like, is it like communion, right?
Hmm.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So they pass the plate, the bread and the wine, and nowadays, there'll be a whole gathering of 100, 200 people, and no one partakes,
Hmm.
and they're still passing all the bread and wine. It's really weird.
What I think is crazy is that the very first one, everyone partook. And then basically, Christians, or I should say Jehovah's Witnesses specifically, have done the us versus them,
Uh-huh.
even with something like communion. Like the example that was actually set was that every person in the room following Jesus Christ took communion. And somehow they turned it into, well, no, that was the founding fathers, the cornerstones of the congregation that partook of it. They were the anointed ones. No one else is anointed, so only the anointed people should take it.
Hmm.
When you go into a church, which I've done, and take communion, every single person in the church takes it,
Right.
and they take it happily.
And the other interesting thing about anointed, which you talked about, people that were Jehovah's Witnesses and ones that were labeled as this anointed class,
Uh-huh.
it was just a feeling.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a feeling.
Nothing
So,
concrete. Hmm.
so it's like you could just meet, so and so, brother such and such, sister such, and they're like, oh, they're anointed, they're gonna go to heaven, and it's like there was no clarity or
Hmm.
qualification as to how they. So the older you get, you're like, huh, that's interesting.
Well, there
And
is.
some people like got to this point too when they got older, and they're like, I think I'm anointed.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. There's a
It's happened to
change.
people I know.
Well, that's what happened to my friend's mom. They said, "Well, she just now she knows," which I think did something good for me. I mean, this is how my faith grew as I left all of this and became a recovering Jehovah's Witness. I've really just counted on myself. Like, if God's our creator and God created me this way, then I should be able to pray and know, okay, that doesn't seem like the right decision, or really pray to be able to forgive somebody, which I believe we're called to do. I can use that, and I've gone back to this with people, members of my own family that are Jehovah's Witnesses, that say, "What about this?" And I've said, I just pray about it. If it works for me, that's what God's telling me to do. If God's telling you to go door to door or go do something else, I'm not arguing that for you. Only you know that. Just like only you know if you're called, right? I do think we have this innate sense that we were created with, and we know. I can't know for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're 7 years old. You ultimately decide, because of this feeling of yours, not to get baptized.
Right. Yeah. I once baptism rolled around, and all my girlfriends were getting baptized. We had a weekend of, doing things Jehovah's Witness girls shouldn't do, right? And over the course of that weekend, two of my best friends had run away. Their moms were just desperate to find them. They came back after their long weekend and decided, "Oh, we're still getting baptized." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I came home Friday. You guys have been gone for a week. Your parents have been, freaking out, and you come back from a week of partying and everyone's getting baptized? No way." So I did not get baptized, and just thereafter, Jen, my stepsister, and I were denounced on stage. They announced that we were a bad association and we're no longer able to spread the good news. So although we had to go in the car group,
So you were
we
reproved?
weren't baptized. So we weren't reproved. We were just
Marked, probably, 'cause
marked. We were marked as bad association.
that's a marking talk.
And I remember the whole congregation turning around, just being like, like,
Oh.
and we had been making out with boys. That's why we were.
What happened to that sister that was giving those talks on the stage and going out in service? What went wrong? Did the devil get you?
Oh, yeah.
It's the other interesting thing is the more people you hear about their kind of story about their own baptism.
Uh
You're
huh.
supposed to have a dedication to God. Most of them don't have it. And then
Hmm.
and very similar things. They're doing crazy shit. They're smoking, they're sleeping with someone,
Uh huh.
and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting baptized this weekend."
Yeah.
And you're like, "What? I thought this is supposed to be a very sacred thing." And it just seems like most people just did it for their own reasons, but not the right reason.
Right. I mean, it was the group of girls I was friends with. They all did it together. And I thought it was so interesting with the lifestyles that we were all living, that that was the choice that they made.
I'm like right there with them until the they got baptized part.
Uh,
Like right there with them all the on debauchery, but then like don't get baptized.
Yeah, you want to smoke and drink with them and party with them. And then, oh, okay, we're gonna go to the get baptized. I'm out. I gotta go. So you're okay. So you're. When did you finally meet your step family? Like, I know there's the story, and I'd love to hear your story. My dad goes to the convention and meets your mom.
Oh, that was crazy to hear about, by the way. Just like this, the auspices of how that went down are crazy.
Yeah, there's some serious tea going on this podcast when it comes to that story. That's yeah, it's getting spilled out all over the internet. But so you're how old are you at this famous infamous convention?
I think I was 9, and I remember meeting your dad. I remember his outfit. He was wearing clogs. Yeah, he.
What was your vibe right away? Like you must have clocked him. You're really smart at that stage. Like
I, the clogs and the perm. He had a perm. I mean, he was not like something I was used to seeing at the assembly that my mom
I
would
mean,
talk to.
he was kind of a hip looking guy.
For sure, just not the kind that my mom would
interesting.
usually talk to.
Yeah.
And he had rented a Camaro, or like a T top, something ridiculous. Um, and they met, and we went to pizza, all of us together, and then my mom came back. We came back to my aunt's. We were staying at my aunt's in Sonoma. The convention was in the Bay Area, and we were closer there. And we came back, and I had a habit
Was
of.
it at the Cow Palace?
It was.
Yes.
And I had a habit of eavesdropping on all my mom's conversations because she's not known to make good decisions. And she's just not, she's highly emotional. She doesn't make good decisions. She's now, just started her mini series of breakdowns. So I'm paying good attention to be like, I need to find out what's going on and make sure I can, like,
At 9.
yeah, yes, handle whatever's coming up. And I heard her tell my aunt, she met this guy and he called her that night. Maybe it was the next day at the convention. But she tells my aunt, okay, I found out he's DF. That's disfellowshipped. I found out he's disfellowshipped. And my aunt says, well, you need to stop talking to him. You already know what you need to do. You need to go to the brothers. You need to turn yourself in. You already know what you need to do. And so I overheard this whole conversation.
She knew.
She knew. And I remember having a lot of angst about this because you're not allowed to talk to disfellowship people. It's sort of a
Taboo.
oh, what's the word for it? Maybe yeah, look the other way if it's your family. Like my uncle was disfellowship, but my grandma was like, well, he's our family. That's different. But if it's somebody else, you don't know what they did. You don't know what bad thing they did. You don't talk to them. It's not your business. You wait for the elders to let us know when. Not your business, unless it's your family. But in this situation, my aunt was serious. Like you can't talk to him, and because I knew about it, I was saying the same thing to my mom, like, hey, you're the one pushing.
It bothered your conscience.
Yeah, you're pushing this on me. And by the way that you are telling me to live, I'm supposed to go tell on you. So you break it down for me here, mother. Like, how is this supposed to go? Because the rules that you're telling me to follow, you're breaking, and then you're putting me in a really compromising position, asking me not to say anything about it.
And you're 9.
I'm 9. And he was coming over a lot to our house, and she's sneaking him in and out. He's sending love letters.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Cassette tapes back then. He sent a lot of Lionel Richie.
He was sending mixtapes.
The love letters were so good. I mean, I intercepted them to read them.
Like
to
a
make sure.
fresh mixtape sending motherfucker.
No one would ever say that my dad wasn't smooth. Like there was a
The smoothest. I'm learning lessons from this man.
yeah
Yeah,
there was
no, I
there was
would
a
agree.
level of and getting the Camaro, wearing all the great clothes. That's the dad move. He would definitely do that.
Uh-huh.
I did want to ask real quickly, just for maybe people that might be curious, what can you say at this time about your father?
He had committed adultery multiple times. And I was, again, put into, I'm eavesdropping on all of our conversations. So I'm very aware of everything going on, as is everyone in our congregation. So I recall one event where somebody came up to my mom at the meeting and said, hey, we caught him again. So and so is going to stay with your kids. Go bust him with this girl. They relayed that to me at, I'm 9. And he came back to get his stuff that night, and I just cussed him up and down and was like, how dare you? Like, how freaking dare you? Like, obviously you're just fellowship. Like, none of us want anything to do with you. Like, how could you do something like this? It was very out in the open, and I was very involved in making, adult decisions at that point in time.
Yeah.
And it went right from him leaving into
Into your new family.
right into a marriage. Yeah.
I have one very succinct memory with your father, and I would love to hear like your thoughts around this memory. I remember going to his house,
Uh-huh.
and I was on at the yard, at the base of his yard by the street, and he ran up and grabbed me and swung me around and hugged me because he thought I was Josh.
Wow, that's random.
So he
I would not be surprised.
so for
Yeah.
every other listener, Josh was his actual son.
Yeah.
And I just like, had he not seen Josh in a while?
Yeah, I think 2 years because they split and then our parents got married and we moved very quickly to Arizona
Mm.
without saying goodbye to anybody. Just, we were gone.
I didn't really know who he was. I'm like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
I'd find out later. So, okay, so smooth talker dad, he's meeting your mom. I'm fascinated to know, because I didn't know that half of it, that your mom knew that he was disfellowshipped
Yeah. Yeah. She knew on day 2.
Wow.
and decided to just continue with
And
this.
sneaking him in and out of the house. Like I'd come home from school and he was at our house and I'm like, what? I won't say her name, but I mean, at this point, I'm calling her by her first name. Like, this is some shit. Like,
Yeah.
you're telling me we're not supposed to have any contact with anyone disfellowshipped. You're telling me you're not talking to him. I'm intercepting letters. I'm still getting mixtapes. You're clearly still having a relationship, and now he's at our house. Like, you're putting me in a really precarious position here.
And what we come to find out too, from speaking with Jen, he would just leave, and Jen would be the one taking care of all the kids back in Arizona.
I have no doubt that that was true because as they joined forces, it was very much me and Jen
Yeah,
at
it's
10 and 11 years old raising 6 children.
and then they just connect, and then we all go to church together, meeting together, and it's like nothing weird is happening.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want to speed up, but okay, so dad and your mom get married. How long did that take to get married, and what was kind of the process in between that?
I think it was about 3 months of sneaking around, and all of her friends asking me what was going on, and me trying. I'm a terrible liar. I always have been. So really, it put. I was having an ulcer over this, and then they got married 3 months into it, and we moved to Arizona.
Because Jen said she had no idea he just came back with a family.
I knew of maybe 6 weeks prior because she had encouraged me to write letters to Jen. And so we were sending letters back and forth, but we had never met. I don't think we had ever talked on the phone. And then all of a sudden they're like, this is your sister. Now you're going to share a room and probably share some clothes with her. I'm just going to write a note and you'll go to school with her tomorrow. Like, no big deal. New family, new state. Everything's new. Just don't talk about it.
After 3 months.
So they cut and
Yeah.
run.
That you
Is what I'm hearing.
they wanted to create the Brady Bunch as quickly as possible.
Yes. Yes. And I think, without any questions.
So how was your experience kind of now growing up in this new norm, being a stepchild or with other stepchildren, and then now
And did you guys miss meetings during that time?
Oh, heck no. We didn't miss a beat. We got to Arizona, new congregation, and same drill. Just definitely more structure than we had had with just my mom.
They were coming in hot because they were trying to do it right and prove their point and their place. Yeah.
Yes. hmm And my mom was reproved pretty quickly at that point for marrying someone who she knew was disfellowshipped. I don't know how much she coughed up to, but she was reproved. He was still disfellowshipped. So I think we left meetings pretty early at the beginning because there wasn't a lot of socialization, but that changed pretty quickly as we moved into the next congregation and moved houses, moved congregations, and then just a lot more structure around the meetings, service, answering. Definitely having a head of household there was more structure.
how long did it take for dad to be reinstated?
I was just going to
I
ask.
don't think long. I think a few months, maybe 6 months. Because I don't think it happened in Phoenix. I want to say maybe when we lived in Scottsdale for a while and we drove to a faraway congregation. I don't remember which one. And then we moved to a house in Phoenix on Greenwood. And I remember he was definitely reinstated then.
How did he cart all the kids around in that Camaro? There's 8 kids.
No, he had a station wagon. That was a rental. He had a station wagon and he had a truck. He had a truck with a CB
Oh my gosh.
because he was still working as a contractor back then.
Oh yeah, and at this time, he's the only person working,
Correct.
and your mom kind of took on the main kind of role as the mom at home.
Yeah.
And did this change for you now? You didn't have to have so much kind of parental duties?
No, I think we had even more because they took off a lot together and would leave Jen and I in charge. I was just relaying this to my boyfriend the other day. I was saying when we were really young and we would call your nanny and be like, they didn't come back for dinner. Like, what are we supposed to make? And she, like in her great southern accent, would be, well, like what's in the refrigerator? We'd tell her what was in the refrigerator and she'd like coach us through over the telephone what to make for dinner. We're 10 and 11.
God bless Nanny.
Yeah.
Nanny is what we called my mom's mom, but yeah, she was great.
She was
Oh,
awesome. She was really awesome.
and what I mean by the question of like, is it confusing because there's a lot of structure when they're there,
Mhm.
but then when they kind of go away, I've heard stories they just disappear at night and go drinking, partying, and then you're like, oh, I guess we're taking care of the kids, but then they come back and they're structured again. You're doing meetings, you're doing everything.
Mhm.
Is there a lot of confusion around what your role should be because it's constantly fluctuating?
I think Jen is a year and a half older than me. She knew what was going on. And I was saying this the other day too. We they came home one night and she had said, "Hey, we're going to go skinny dipping." We had a pool then. I didn't even know what skinny dipping was. We're out swimming naked. We're 10, 11, and they come back and said, "You're grounded." And I'm like, I'm, devastated. And she was like, "Shut up, get over here." And she's like, "They're leaving again tomorrow. We can do whatever we want. Just be like, oh, that's a bummer. And then we'll go to our room. No one's going to be here to monitor anything." And once I kind of got that, she had been running this role for a long time. So once I understood that, it made life a lot easier.
It's really unfortunate, like hearing Jen. I think sometimes you sit down with family or friends and you hear little snippets.
Mm-hmm.
You just hear little bits and pieces, but sometimes you don't have a structure like this where you really sit down and like let's talk.
Uh-huh. True.
And when you hear like Jen's narrative of everything from a child, uh gosh, I love my sister. It's so damn sad because she because of my mom's death and my dad's inability and don't get me wrong, probably well deserved, his inability to cope and kind of function
Mm-hmm.
due to his wife dying,
Mm-hmm.
where she just like had to step up really early, and then kind of hearing it from you where you're saying, oh, Jen, she's kind of been in this role for a while already,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really sad that she's had to take on this motherly role at such a young age.
Yeah.
There's a trend among ex Jehovah's Witnesses
Mm-hmm.
that each one of us who leaves pretty much at the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're already having these questions because we're all having to function like adults in our lives because for some reason the adults in our lives are not doing it. I mean, I've heard already from a half dozen or more people, and in some cases, like it's just falling apart at home.
But there's this facade,
Yeah.
there's this facade outside of there, which I mean, I think the silver lining is like I want nothing but real and raw in my own life. I mean, I felt
Yeah.
like growing up, especially in the chaotic, dysfunctional home we grew up in, everything was a secret. Like we weren't supposed to talk about this. And I never wanted my kids to feel that way. Like we don't have secrets. Like if there's a problem, we're going to talk about it. It like open discussion on the regular. I can't imagine if my kids didn't want to live with me or didn't want to talk to me. I would be so devastated. I want to know how I can fix it and what I don't believe in this facade of we're okay on the outside if things aren't really okay on the inside. Like fix it from the inside.
It's really horrible when you can't just be your true authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And then the world that you're surrounded by, your family, your friends, they're all kind of doing the same thing where they can't be their true authentic selves. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
bingo. That is it right there.
it's just exhausting. Just and it sucks because like you genuinely feel like, oh, if I kind of open up my mind to what I could become, I could die in Armageddon.
Uh-huh.
Dude,
Like it's like I can't fight God. God wants me to do this, and it's just so conflicting.
I remember feelings of like I went through. We'll talk offline about some of the stuff I've gone through. So similar, but
Trent, we're gonna get all this shit out one day. You just gotta. All these podcast guests are doing it. You can do it too, buddy.
I forget what I was
One
just going to
day,
say.
but not today. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It will not be this day.
This is not your interview today. I apologize, Trent. If it comes back up, please join back in. Okay, so you have Jen. Do you at this point don't believe?
Mhm.
Do you remember having conversations with Jen
Oh, yeah.
where she's like, "I don't believe in this shit
Yeah,
either."
that was kind of verbatim what she said, yes. And she's showing me, showing me this other side of things that I would have, honestly been too scared to ever attempt. But she had a much more worldly way about her at, 11 years old and knew a lot that I didn't. So, we had a lot more experimentation because she, number one, was not afraid. And second, just knew things that I didn't know.
Do you feel if you were to take a step back and kind of look at it, would you say Jen was a big driving factor of helping wake you up from this?
Yeah, I all the way down to, telling my mom I didn't want to do this, and I really thought somehow she was going to say, "Okay, well, you don't want to do this anymore. You don't believe. You don't have to go." She was like, "Okay, well, go get ready for meeting. You're still going. You're still answering." It changed nothing. And Jen's viewpoint was like, "Whatever they say doesn't matter. We have our own, we have our own belief system. We're doing our own thing, and none of this is going to matter the
Yeah.
second we can get out of this crazy town."
So you're hearing it from Jen. You're not going to be one of the 144,000, and and it allows you to move forward. So um, I- what I understand is Jen also unfortunately was kind of a bad influence. She liked to do the drugs.
Well, I think we
Uh,
definitely had a party
yeah,
cycle for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. I mean, I
She
I
liked to
think I had
party.
a shorter party cycle than the friends around me. I had a
Yeah.
shorter party cycle that I and it was all Jehovah's Witnesses. I just realized that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. It was a short run. I'm glad I got it out of my system real quick.
Now, this was a very impactful thing for Jen. I'd like to hear kind of your side of it, but she tells the story of her car accident that you were also a part of. Do you have any thoughts about kind of the lead up to that, that process and kind of all of that, and then after
Yeah,
it?
that I mean that was traumatic. It had we had been marked at I think we were 13 and 14, or maybe we were 14 and 15. Maybe I just turned 14. We were getting into it with mom and dad all the time. I can't remember what we had done. And maybe we had been caught smoking cigarettes or something. Maybe they caught us sneaking out. It was something along those lines. Something, not horrific, but horrible enough by Jehovah's Witness standards. And they beat the shit out of us. Like it went down hard in our room, like really, really bad. And then they bolted our windows shut from the outside so we couldn't open them.
What I mean, if you don't mind, like you said that with a kind of a comedic tone.
So like throwing us into walls and punching like you're going down. They just came in blazing like people that
Both of them?
yeah, both of them. And then
Wow.
then locked the windows. Maybe the windows were already locked and they locked the door from the outside and they gave us a bucket and toilet paper and left for the night. And we talked our younger sisters across the hall into letting us out. I think we gave them $5 or something. We took our clothes and pillowcases and went out their window and ran away. And while we were on the run for I don't know 5 days with my cousin and one of his friends that agreed to pick us up.
Who we find out is 15.
Yeah, yes, yeah, they're all 15 and 16. We were out with this friend of my cousin's, got some wine coolers. I think I drank one. I don't know how many the other folks drank. I think a few. I drank.
Yeah.
And then this guy said, "Hey, we should go get some drugs." And I'm like, "I've seen an after school special. I'm not doing this." Everybody else partakes. And then this guy just flies off the side of a mountain, flips the car multiple times. I'm the only one wearing a seatbelt also, and everyone else in the car almost dies. Our best friend, my cousin, my sister, and this guy John Juan, that's what my cousin called him, took off, like got out of the car and took off, and was sent to a boys' ranch later on. But I mean, the impact was horrific. My best friend never came back as a normal person. My cousin has never recovered. He's been in and out of jail and drugs, just never recovered. And I have to think that, my sister was in the hospital for so long on like life support. They didn't know if she was going to make it. It was incredibly traumatic for me not knowing if she was going to make it. And we were planning our demise to get out of here.
Yeah.
That was our plan. It didn't work out so well. But they had her on a morphine drip for 2 or 3 months in the hospital. And it was just awful. The whole thing was really, really, really traumatic,
Life changing in the worst way.
life changing for sure. And that really slowed our roll on. I mean, we didn't believe, but it really slowed our roll on how are we going to get out of here. We need to plan better this time. We need to have jobs. We need to look into getting emancipated. We need to get out of here. We knew that. It really slowed our progression in getting out and figuring out how to get out
Did
legal.
you guys ever get emancipated?
No, but we both moved out the following year. Yeah, 15 we moved out.
And she actually got like kicked out to live with Uncle Vint.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, Vent and Debbie.
Yeah.
She stayed with, and I went to my dad and his wife's house, and that was short-lived as well. And then I got a couple of jobs and just moved out.
So let me ask this. You had previously said that you were on the outs with dad,
Mhm.
and then you end up at his house and it was short lived. So are you guys still fighting at that point? Still on the outs?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a real tight relationship. I just didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, but he's
I mean, I really, yeah, I wanted to stay with Jen. It just wasn't feasible that I could go with her family out of state, and it wasn't feasible that my dad was going to take her. Although we tried both avenues.
I just think that kind of shows how hard you guys needed to get your independence and freedom. Like you tapped resources that were not necessarily good ones. You just had to go somewhere.
Well, and I think at that point too, just before us running away, well, and even after us running away, we had taken a hard stance with we're not going to meetings, we're not going,
Together?
yeah, we're not going to meetings, we're not going out in service. You can't make us. And the we were met with like, if I have to drag you down the stairs, you're going. So like, there's no messing around. You want to repeat what happened before, and it just we didn't want that to happen, but that was certainly what was said over and over. Like there was not any choice. You're going, you're doing all the things that we tell you to do until you're out.
How does this I don't know. I don't even know how to fully phrase this, but bless you. You're so good at stating horrible, tragic things very quickly and moving on.
Very calmly.
But how do these horrible, tragic things happen to you over and over again, where the people you live with, your mom, your stepfather, continually physically and emotionally abuse you? Where you feel like my only route to go is leave at 15, 16 years old and just to move on. Like how are you able to like deal with that?
That's a good question. I think I mean, my other concerns were leaving all the other kids there, knowing what's going on, and tragedy continued after I left. There were multiple events after that um where CPS was called in because of abuse with the children.
And you know about this because you were checking in even though you left?
Oh yeah. No, I was still around. I mean, I came over a lot. I was still really close to my family. I mean, it's the only family. I think it's like Stockholm syndrome, like yes, you're an abuser, but you're also the only mom I have, and you're really the only dad
Yeah.
that's raised me. So, and these are my siblings that I'm incredibly close to. Like I was never outside of the home for more than a week, and I'd come back and visit and hang out with my siblings or have dinner. I was over a lot and wanted to maintain a relationship with my parents as much as I could on my own terms because I couldn't imagine not being part of the family. I just couldn't live under the rules.
What were you able to do to like did you do therapy? Did you what were you able to do to kind of get to a mental stability point?
I mean, I have had some therapy, not that I found that to be incredibly helpful. I think more than anything, it's I've gone through a lot of coaching as well, and I think that's been really helpful. The idea that that both things can be true. You can be a good mom and also go through a series of nervous breakdowns and be emotionally unstable and physically abusive with your children, but also be a good mom a good portion of the time. And I think the same is true for my stepdad. Like, I mean, I remember one situation where there had been like a knockdown, drag out fight with the two of them, like blood and like it was bad, like glass breaking, blood. I'm sure I had tried to call the cops. Maybe I wasn't able to that time. And I don't remember where my mom was, but Jen and I were in the backyard trying to bust in through their window to like, we need to, are you guys alive? What's going on in there? And he was under he had a drafting desk. He was under the desk in like fetal position. And I remember just feeling sorry for him. Like, I mean, he's in his 30s, he's got 8 kids. Clearly, you're not tracking, right? Like, You've got this crazy wife. You're crazy. Like, there's a lot of crazy making going on, a lot of physical abuse, a lot of cops being called. It just didn't. And on the same hand, I'm like, I feel sorry for you guys. Like, you don't know what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
You're grown ups, but you have no idea what you're doing.
And what age were you feeling that?
Like 10, maybe 11. And tomorrow we're going to act like nothing happened. We're going to go to meeting and no one's going to talk about it. We're going to clean up the glass. No one was bleeding. Never was there a problem. We're going door to door tomorrow.
It sounds to me like you probably processed your hardest trauma like before the age of 10.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it. Yeah.
It just sounds to me the way you talk about it, like, you seem very astute, and like you seem like you were a child who really, like, you were advanced maybe as a child in some ways, and you're so traumatized, and you're just like processing this trauma very early on, so that by the time you're, I don't know, 30, 40, it's not so hard to talk about because you've been doing that since you were 7.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I think we all process things differently also.
Yeah, true.
But I think I've processed a lot of this at a young age and just knew that both could be true. Like, you could be a good person. Of course, the place I'm at now, I have very little to do with my with any of my family. I mean, obviously my siblings, but not with my parents. And because I have boundaries set up. But at that age, I really didn't have boundaries set up, and I wanted to believe like you could still be a good person. Unfortunately, too many things have happened that just cross a boundary where
Yeah.
it's not safe for me. It's certainly not safe for my children. I don't want my children exposed to any of that.
Yeah.
So there's been very little with my kids and my parents.
I think that it takes a certain type of person, and I believe that you were this person from the start. So there's an argument always nature, nurture, and kind of what's in your genetics and your DNA and your environment. You had the capability to look at the situation and go, this is the shit that this is what it was, and how am I going to react? And it seemed like you had the ability to always react in the best way possible,
Maximize
and
your opportunities there.
and just go like, this shit happened. But some people go, this shit happens, as woe is me, and some people go, this shit happens, it's time to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to move forward. Like, I'm not going to let this happen to my kids.
Yeah,
And it's very easier said than done, especially if it's not something you naturally can do,
sure.
because you have to work a lot harder to do that. And I'm thankful for you that you've always had that mindset. I mean, you tell me stories sometimes, and I'm like, how do you remember this shit? And it's like just such traumatic, horrible things, and it's just like, yeah, this happened. I have memories. By this time, I think one of them, you're out of the house already. This was in Rio Linda,
Uh,
and everyone in the house is held up in a room, your mom included, because my dad is just yelling and screaming and throwing a fit and probably drunk, and we're all hiding in one room together. I have, and it was this, this was scary. This was not like,
uh-huh.
this is like, I hope that he doesn't break this door down.
Uh-huh.
Because if he comes in here, one of us or two of us or whoever are getting grabbed out to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the youngest, so it's just like, I don't really fully kind of know what's going on. It's just scary.
Right.
And I have other memories of him ripping the phone cord out of the wall so we can't call the cops, and different stuff like that. Jen did retell the same story of the glass breaking in the shower. So I don't want this to be a dad trauma podcast, but this shit happened, and stuff with your mom as well. It's just horrible. But you've decided at this point to leave. You've moved out. You're
Mm-hmm.
15. And then what was the time frame? There was a short time, and there's obviously a gap here, but you and Jen actually end up living together for a while with her daughter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the story
Uh,
between the 15, 16 living with your dad until Jen and you finally reconnect and live together?
I moved out of my dad's. He kicked me out actually, just before I turned 16,
Sounds
a couple
about
months
right.
before 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. He's drunk. I was with my parents, my mom and my stepdad. We were at a Jehovah's Witness. We had gone to the meeting. We had gone to a barbecue with some friends. I came home a few minutes past where he wanted me home at like 8 o'clock, and he just lost it, drunk, and was like, "Get out of here." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sounds great. Like, that sounds like a perfect idea." So I already had a job. I got a second job. I moved in with a couple of girls. and that they weren't very clean. It was problematic for a lot of reasons, having two other girl roommates. And Jen had Macy at this point, and I had gone back with your dad and with Karen. I don't think April came with us, but we went back to see Macy when she was born in Arizona. And we came back out here, and Jen moved out here when Macy was 7 months old, and we got an apartment together. We are 17 and 18 at this point. I was furious when we went to sign the lease. They said, "Oh, you're not 18. We need a cosigner." And I was like, what the fudge? Like, what? I have been renting places for years. So I don't remember who ended up co-signing. Somebody ended up co-signing. Jen was 18. I wasn't, but we lived together for about a year and a half. And then she got pregnant with Zachary, and I was her Lamaze coach and her birthing coach. I was there for his birth.
Cool.
I had Macy in my room. I mean, we're playing house. I'm at 17 and 18.
Well, you guys have been raising damn kids forever at that point.
Yeah. And I was really, really close to her babies. But I remember a time when Jen and I lived together, and we were coming home, it was around Christmas time, and she said, "Let's get a Christmas tree." And I was like, "What if our parents stop by?" We lived in an apartment not too far away. They're probably not going to come. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. Let's just get it. We'll go to Target. We'll get all the stuff. We did that, and my mom ended up coming over and just losing it, crying, guilting us, just the pity party. And I thought, this is exactly what I was afraid of. We can't even have something as simple as a Christmas tree and Christmas for her kids without it being a big to do. And then we couldn't come over for like a month. We couldn't see our siblings. Just, it was like traumatic. That situation, I remember being traumatic. Like, we should be able to have a Christmas tree if we want to have a Christmas tree. Who cares if it's not the day he was born? Who cares?
Well,
Like,
and the crazy thing, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such an interesting thing because it's like you guys are grown up, you live on your own. You're like, we're not doing this witness thing. Just
right.
And think about what we just talked about happening in the house.
Hmm.
And then they're gonna have a mentee be a mental breakdown over a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Like, excuse the fuck out
Right.
of me. That's the biggest cognitive dissonance I've seen yet.
No, I remember that being a big thing. We weren't allowed to come over for several weeks. And we were over a lot. We wanted to see our siblings. This was our only semblance of family we had.
yeah. So you're living with Jen, you're playing house, you're raising the kiddos. How long did that last?
Couple years. She moved, but we went back to Arizona for Christmas, and she met a guy there, or maybe reacquainted with a guy there, and then ended up moving to marry him. His name was Matt. He was a real dick too. They got divorced. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we talked about Matt.
Real dick.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and they
yeah.
had a small stint in Flagstaff.
Uh-huh.
Matt and her lived there for a little bit. Full on cowboy.
Yeah, and I just remember him being very abusive. Like, I came out there for the wedding and stayed with the kids when they went in their honeymoon, and just a real, like, you want your ass kicked over everything. It didn't matter what it was. Like, he was threatening to kick ass all the time. And I thought, I mean, I guess you either go one way or the other, right? You either go into something that you were raised with and you're comfortable with, not because it's the right thing, or you're completely the polar opposite. There's one or the other.
So I guess I'm really curious because about this point, I guess in my mind, I'd be curious to know like your take. Maybe this has happened even before this, but do you finally start to realize like, oh, I don't even have like this step family anymore. Like I don't like I'm now like I'm not really close with some of my family, my brothers and sisters, my parents. Do you kind of start to realize like, oh, this witness is out of the witness, like Joe's witness life is out of my life. Some of these brothers and sisters I've had for a while they've now moved. What are your thoughts about like your area of your life?
No, that was a really hard year. A really hard year. Jen moved. Your dad and my mom got divorced. My mom was having an affair, which only I knew about.
With the aerobics instructor.
With the yes. Oh, that guy was such a piece of work. And I was again having an ulcer over this. I'm like, he will kill you with witnesses. I don't know what you're thinking. It was
She makes great
yeah.
decisions.
Right, right. Really, really difficult. And then, your dad left with you guys. My other sister Karen was still here. Jen had moved back to Arizona. Really difficult period of time. And I met my children's father about that point and moved to San Francisco. And then it was just my mom and my two youngest brothers. And my sister was kind of in and out. But it was very, very chaotic for the next several years with my mom.
What Can you break down some of the feelings and thoughts of what made it some of the most difficult?
Well, she didn't have any financial stability without your dad. So, without having any financial stability and this aerobics instructor, I mean, this guy was just a joke and a half. Yeah, there was no stability in her life whatsoever, and she was just having nervous breakdown after nervous breakdown. My brother Micah was up to no good at this point, and she was, complaining a lot about him. Didn't have the money to get by, trying to get in an apartment. I was constantly worried about her, just constantly worried about her. And then she moved into an apartment. I think my brother Josh was on and off. I bought a house about then. I had my older son with
No
my
cosigner?
kid's dad. No cosigner. Moved my brother Josh in, and I think we were all kind of on the same team at that point. My natural siblings and I, like, mom's cuckoo. We're just gonna have to do what we can for her. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
yeah.
think I think one of the things that sucks for me on my part is, yeah, dad moved Brent and I away. By this time, a lot of the older kids, yourself included, had moved out, and then their marriage breaks up and we leave. And I feel very conflicted because, at this point I knew you guys weren't witnesses,
Uh huh.
and I fully believed. And the messaging I got were, we need to kind of distance ourselves from them because they're not following the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird, it's complicated
Right.
because I'm like, it's like, okay, this is what God is saying.
Uh huh.
God is saying these
Right, and
things.
you wanna do the right thing, and you wanna be with good association,
Yeah.
and you wanna do the right thing, so you're only following what you've been led to believe is true.
Yeah, and all I'm hearing is you guys are bad association,
Mhm,
because you don't follow the same faith. And so it's really unfortunate, but I lost a half of my family. I mean, that's all I
mhm,
knew from you guys from like 2, 3 years old.
right,
And then like an instant.
I have a question.
What's that?
Did your dad ever seem remorseful? Like, did he ever show pain or sadness when he shunned one of his kids?
No, no. I mean, probably the last time he had a feeling like that was when Jen caught him underneath the desk, without him realizing that anyone was watching. I mean, dad is a master at not ever showing you his hand. He's only going to show you what he wants to show you. So I'm sure he's had a lot of private moments, no doubt. If not, I don't know how that's not possible, because arguably dad's had a lot of tragedy in his life,
mhm,
a lot of loss, a lot of horrible things, but he's never talked to me about any of it. And growing up, like, you do ask. Jen's asked, my brother Brent's asked, just tell us something.
uh-huh,
And he just never, he just doesn't break. It's kind of this narcissistic kind of like, well, they did wrong. They're the ones that did things. And it's like, you're part of this, dad. Welcome to the Culture Podcast, the Sad Dad Podcast. It's
And my dad was mean too, guys.
dads are so important, and they always seem to mess up somehow. But I think conversations like this, we continue to have them. Hopefully, fathers are listening, young fathers,
mhm,
people. And it's like, if you don't really take control and take your life by the reins, like, you're gonna cause
Well,
problems,
and
mhm,
I just want to say
whether you're a mother or a
we're
father.
we're asking people just to tell us genuine stories. And it turns out a lot of us have had fathers that were kind of absent or like would really
Sometimes you
harm
get
us.
two absent fathers.
Yeah, so there's more than one of them out there, unfortunately.
And you just try to, from my opinion, you just try to figure it out.
Yeah.
mhm.
And some people, they try to figure it out and they do horrible. And some people try to figure out and they really pick things together and start to build a pretty great life, which is where I think you're at, Jess.
Oh, thank you.
Obviously not easy, a lot of hardships along the way, but life isn't easy. But
No, I think there's so many of these things made me stronger. Like, I have a really strong sense of, who I am, and I thrive on having control of the situations I can control. I think because we didn't have a lot of control
Yeah.
over our lives as children, and so I'm very disciplined, and I like to be in control of the things I can be in control of, like, my
yeah.
work or how my kids are treated.
But I see a echoing thing of when I've spoke with other people in your situation. When I ask, how it's been tough for you and what was hard, you speak about other people and their hardships.
Mm,
So when I asked, like, how did that situation feel? You immediately start talking about how it was so tough on your mom, and how it was so tough on Josh, and how it was so tough on Micah. So you tend to, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is you inhabited the mother role so early, where it's like my purpose is them.
mhm,
And it's like, it's, in one sense, it creates the wonderful person you are now, the strong person, but it's also like, gosh, you weren't supposed to get that so early on.
mhm.
you
Right,
know
right, yeah.
part.
It's almost like the trauma makes us learn empathy faster for
Mhm.
others.
No, I
And
completely agree.
it's like a lot of your identity is, again, in my opinion, I'm not a therapist, but your identity is these other people to take care of, and really make sure they try to
Mhm.
succeed. And I'm sure there's some horrible mindsets when things don't go well. Are you still taking care of your mom?
No, I cut her off.
You finally.
She's remarried, and her husband is abusive and has done a lot of terrible, terrible things, including like he's sexually abused the
Oh,
people in our family. And as that
yeah.
came to light, I just cut her off entirely.
Also a Jehovah's Witness?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And has he been punished in any way by them?
No, just a complete denial. A complete denial.
Yeah, it's like I should stop being, um like, I should stop saying wow, but it's like,
Right.
but it's like, how is it possible that these, and is he an elder or a ministerial servant, or?
Not that I'm aware of. And this situation came out, and all not everybody knows this is what happened, but I went to see a medium, which is very very against Jehovah's Witness beliefs. I went to see a medium, and she told me a lot of things. She instantly like started talking about my grandmother, and started talking about my nephew. That I have two nephews that have passed. The older one was talking about him, and she was talking about this horrible man, my mom's husband. And she said, "Do you want me to tell you everything your nephew's saying?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "He sexually abused him as well as mentally and physically." And I was like, I knew it. It never added up to me how much all of us in our family hated him. It didn't add up. He did a lot of
Yeah.
horrible things, but it didn't add up. And so I went back, and it wasn't, and I told my mom this, it wasn't just that conversation with the medium. It was that I called, my nieces, and they'd had the same conversation with a different medium. And my every person in my family that I called and said this to said, I always knew it. I knew it because of this. And that's what I explained to her and her husband in a group message. I said, I need a face to face, which they refused to have. And I said, it wasn't just the medium saying this. It was every single person in our family that said, I knew because
Mm,
of this. Nobody wanted to say that out loud. Nobody wanted to call somebody a child molester,
yeah.
but that's what you're going to protect. And all within this faith, which is, a whole nother
Yeah.
Oprah, with the amount of unfortunate situations that happen like that within the congregation, where if you don't have two witnesses, it's just they look the other way, and these kids are traumatized, and much of their life is messed up over something that if there wasn't a witness, it didn't happen. And the offender is protected.
It's bullshit.
Definite, definite.
We've it's we haven't even had that many podcasts, and we've already discussed the two witness rule multiple times.
Uh-huh.
It's so sad.
It's affecting many people's lives through
Mm-hmm.
decades.
And I remember growing up, it was like, oh no, that's the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
It was so easy. The witnesses would like to point fingers at, like,
Sure.
no, look elsewhere.
Uh-huh.
It's, oh, these Catholic priests they're the ones. It's like, no, the whole time you guys have been covering this shit up.
Mm-hmm. I saw a whole 2020 on this, where it was like back-to-back episodes with somebody who had left Bethel because there were 40,000, what's the word for it?
Like
Um,
people who have been victims.
I can't think of the way they phrased it. There were 40,000,
Victims.
yeah, and they've been reported to Bethel, and Bethel
Yeah.
hadn't done anything about it because of this, where their two witnesses rule. And this woman left their religion, left Bethel, left everything, went to the police, and there was a whole 2020 or like dateline on it, which I thought was really interesting.
So you're now on your own. You're living. You bought a house. Josh
Mhm.
is living with you.
Uh-huh.
Walk me through this era of your life. Like, what's, you at this point fully don't believe, but you also don't kind of have your faith that you have now? Where are you at mentally, physically, with everything?
Mm. Yeah, I definitely don't go to church. I really don't have any faith. I think I allowed what I was taught as a child to affect my worldview of, if this person said it was true, it's true, rather than really, going into prayer and like, would God want me to turn my back on my brother? Like, obviously
Yeah.
not. I think that developed later in life for me, that developed later. I really didn't have any faith. I was just, moving through life. I wasn't doing horrible things, which I think is interesting. Sometimes people have this idea. There's a client of mine who said this to me, that she had prayed and prayed for me, and once I started going to church, she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're a Christian." I'm like, "I'm the same person that loaned you 5 grand. What are you talking about? You're acting like I was I was doing something horrible before. I'm the same
Yeah.
person. I think I'm the same generous, loving person. I have a better like constitution in myself. I feel like I have a better sense of like my
Hmm.
purpose, and that comes for me from my belief in who my creator is and what my purpose is in life. But that didn't take away from who
Yeah.
I was before I knew that to be true. I had a sense of that. I just didn't have the stance that I have now. I feel like I have more faith now. I've been through more as a woman at 50 than I had been at that point in my life. And you go through enough circumstances, I think it tests your
Gosh, we
faith.
all want to be the wisdom brain we have now with that younger body. Gosh.
Right?
But it's so how long did it take you to kind of go through the doldrums and the shit and the muck and kind of get from to where you were then to where you are now? What was that kind of journey, and take as long or as short as you want. If there's really anything that you feel like a listener would want to hear to kind of get into the part where you do have a level of faith. I'd love to hear that part.
Mm. I think it's a fairly short story. It was 2016, and my older son was in a series of, he broke his knee, he had a surgery, he got refilled a prescription of Norco and just lost his ever loving mind. He got something off the street. He refilled the Norco, got something off the street, lost his mind. Like didn't know his name. He was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And I really, you have tragedy, you start really praying, right? I mean, I could tell you when Jen was in the hospital, I was praying to Jehovah every
Yeah.
single day. Just don't let my sister die. Like my faith was alive. I didn't want my sister to die. And I felt the same way with my older son. I was really praying about it. All my girlfriends were praying for me. And a couple of them invited me to go to church during this period of time. And I'm really praying, and I'm just praying to God, saying, if my son can just come back and be normal again and know his name and be a normal human being again, I'll do whatever. So, like, you put it on my heart, and I'm going to know it. And these three girls invite me to church. I go along to church. A girl I've been working out with every day for years is leaving church as I show up. And I'm like, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I was my first day here. It was my first day here." So we joined each other at church, and I just kept praying. My son got better, and they wrote me in right away with, like, "Hey, you need to join a small group." I'm like, I've spent my whole life trying to get out of Bible study. I don't want to do that. I started a small group. They invited me to go on their mission trip, and I did that, and I found that to be life changing, really, like perspective changing. Where there weren't these like rules in religion. It's a big mega church, but it's very come as you are. Just God is good, and we are here to do good things, and we're good people, and that's the overarching message. Certainly, there's people there that don't share my same beliefs, or that have more of a God in a box, like, "Oh, the Bible says," and I'm like, "You're not for me. That's just not." I have gay friends. You're not going to change that. That's my hot button. That is for sure my hot button. I'm not going to have somebody tell me something I don't believe, but I have to go back to this constitution that I have with like who my creator is, what I believe my purpose on earth is to do. And I think we all have a purpose. And when you find that, you have a lot more peace in your life. So that was my like quick, I found my own faith, and it really had to be something like a mega church that didn't have these rules and regulations with, we're watching your every move, and if we see you step out, we're going to come talk to you. I've been met with just love and encouragement every step of the way.
And it totally makes sense. Like this goes back to like if people don't truly know, you have every right to have, that reservation
Hmm.
where it's like, dude, you don't know what I've been through. like like the last thing I want to do is join a church. Like I just got out of one. Like even if it
Uh-huh.
was 10 years ago, it's
Sure,
like you
sure.
feel like, gosh, I just got one out of, I'm not ready to dive back into another church. So I do think it's very justified, and I'm always thankful when I chat with people that have found something
Hmm.
because I think that's really what it is. Find your tribe, find your community, find your
Yeah.
purpose, find what works for you. But if the group that you're looking at has this super ultra rigid,
Yeah.
me personally, it's probably not going to be for me.
Oh, it wouldn't be for me either. And one of the things I've loved doing for the last 2 years is we've been running this trauma reboot group, where I run a women's table, and it's faith-based, it's not, like, church specific. In fact, this same group, Trauma Reboot, came in after a devastating, like, bombing at a gay nightclub. They came in and did trauma for everybody in the area, and when I joined their group as a facilitator, so they said, "We have to tell you this, a lot of churches pulled their backing because we went in and offered this service." And I was like, this is one more reason I am all about what you're doing.
That's
Like,
great.
we should be here
Yeah.
serving people and serving the community. If you're going to come into any community and start picking apart what their lifestyle is and decide if you're going to help, like, you're not here for the right
Yeah.
reason. Get out of here.
I've known this to be true about you for a while. It sounds like, and everything I see is you're in a really good mental space, in a really good place. But
And serving others.
serving others,
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
what we're here to do. Like, find your spot that where you're called to be.
The problem with a lot of people is you only get to that place where you can finally start helping others is when you really work on yourself.
I completely agree.
You have to get to a certain level. You don't got to be 100.
Hmm.
We're never going to be 100, but you have to get to a certain level. You're like, I'm at a point now where I can finally start helping other people.
Hmm.
And I think that's really great. But what I was going to ask is, are there still things, and I would love to know if genuinely they are. I'm not sure that they are, but are there things that you're still working through that you wish people understood, maybe about your situation, your past, kind of your mental? Are there things that you're still working on, or have you really had a good opportunity to overcome a lot of that?
No, I think I'm a work in progress. I want to be better than I was yesterday, all the time. And I don't think we're ever in this life. Like, if it's one or if it's many, I don't think we're ever going to be 100%. Like you said, I think in order to be the best version of ourselves tomorrow, we have to constantly work on being the best version of ourselves, which means a lot of self-help and really looking inward, which, I mean, I think is why so many of my favorite people are in recovery. You're really forced to look inward and figure out where your part of the problem is. I'm not personally recovery, but a lot of my good friends are, and I love our brother is now too. I love that they have the ability to look at a situation and go, my piece was this. I could have done this better. And not to beat yourself up about it, but to know that we're continuously getting better. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today.
Hey, let me ask you this. I find sometimes that self help is like sobriety.
Uh-huh.
You can't really make someone go into self help mode. Do you think that's true?
Oh, 100%. And I think there's a stark difference between, like, going back to the way we were raised. My mom is very, very victim mentality. Everything, everyone else did this to me. I can't get out of it. I can't be financially stable. It's all victim. And I have been a big proponent of, I will never be a victim. Like, I am in control of my situation, and I can change my situation. I can get out of it. I can MacGyver myself out of any situation if I think I can, right? Like, that's
Love it.
that's how God created us, with a brain, with two legs to
You've
run.
had that spirit since you were 7.
Yeah,
You've
well,
had that
I think
spirit.
I think most of us have that spirit in us. It just has to be broken free. And sometimes, it,
Yeah.
it takes some event to
Make a
figure that
note of
out.
that, Derek.
Yeah,
You had that spirit just when you were setting up this
Hell
I
laptop.
yeah,
was
you
not going to
did.
give up.
Yeah, yeah. You were not going to be deterred to get that mic figured out, the headset figured out.
I'm so not
Uh,
joking.
has it was has there anything, like, looking back, that surprised you about kind of like your journey to get to here, or maybe like to where you become, or did you kind of always like have that, like, no, like, I'm gonna make it, like, I'm not gonna have issues? Has everything, for the most part, gone the way that you'd hoped?
I think so. I think for the most part, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I've accomplished a lot of the things I set out to accomplish. But I think it's really interesting listening to your podcast and listening to others, how many of those feelings came up that I could relate to, that I would not have put into context as being raised as a Jehovah's Witness, until I heard somebody else say it, and I heard you or Trent say, "Oh, that's because," and I thought, "Oh, ding ding ding, like,
Mm,
that's another thing." Like, I now have this mental list of several things that I wouldn't have put
Yeah.
together previously that I have now just recently.
And you said it in the past, but you do feel like the Jehovah's Witness faith is a cult?
100%.
When did you come to that determination?
Many years ago, and I was afraid to even say that because you're then, deemed an apostate.
It was
um,
harder to say a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was afraid to say that. Maybe a year ago, I was serving. We opened a new church up the hill, and I was serving with another guy that was helping there. And he said, "How long have you been here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm recovering Jehovah's Witness." And he said, "Oh, I was part of a cult. I wrote a book. It's called Cult Candy." He was a Mormon, and I read the book in like one afternoon, and I was like, "Dang, we have a lot in common." And same thing, like him and his wife had been raised this way, born that way, raised that way. Maybe he hadn't been raised that way, his wife had been, but a lot of similarities. And then he found his place in something big like Bayside, where it's just a real come as you are, come and support people. He's part of men's groups, does a lot with recovery. And I think just, yeah, finding his place where there's not high control and it's everyone's accepted and everybody's loved. Like, that's a message we should be sending.
Do you feel like you control your life now?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
How long do you think you can say that you fully controlled your life? Like, what age were you when you were like, I'm firmly in control?
When I moved out.
Cool. That was in your teens.
Yeah.
Love that.
You know what's interesting is as you say that, I there's still these weird slivers because you say that you were still kind of afraid to call the witnesses a cult.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's the
Yes.
crazy thing is you could be
Uh-huh.
fully out
Yeah.
for years,
Uh-huh.
decades, and there's like you have family or you have connections, and you don't want to, And we talked about earlier of like working to be your genuine, true, authentic self. And so it's like even then there's a small sliver where you have to carry this. Oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I
The
don't want to.
cautiousness.
It's
Yeah.
it's that type of weird control that the group can still have on you years later.
Well, I realized it just I have a friend that's my age and he said, "Oh, have you run into Tanya or anyone from her family? I want to see if she's still in the truth." And I said, "Do you hear what you just said?" And it didn't dawn on me. This was like a year ago. It didn't dawn on me until that moment that we have been calling it it's brain programming at its best, and that is one of the signs of a cult.
So I guess as we close out, is there anything that you would like to regale to the listeners or kind of say to the listeners that you feel maybe it would have been nice to hear from someone maybe when they're young or
Well, I want to say real quick to frame it, there are legitimately teenagers out there who are still
oh
trying
yeah.
to live
Mm-hmm.
in the same way you were. They are reaching out to our friends on TikTok and Instagram and
Uh-huh.
literally asking grown adults for advice. What kind of advice would you have for them?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Mm. Oh, I think that's a great question. I would say no, you find your constitution. Know that God loves you just as you are, who you are, whether you are a gay girl, or you're whatever your situation is. I don't know what that situation is, but I know growing up in this kind of a cult, how you're put down if you are not doing exactly what they tell you are meant to be doing, if you're anything outside of that norm. So I would say, especially if you're in this outlier area, like, know who you are, know who God created you to be, and that's exactly who you're
Yeah.
supposed to be. And live in that faith and get out as quickly as you can. If it means getting two jobs and finding a family member to live with, don't spend another moment in your life being controlled and brainwashed with something that in your heart is not where you should be.
I think it might be hard as a young person to calculate things,
Mhm.
to plan. Young people are very much in the moment. They're very much, very reactive. Things happen. Woe is me. I'll never get out of this.
Uh-huh.
And the reality is you will. It will not be easy. But if you really plan shit out, you can find a way to get out and be successful.
100%.
It's like, dude, you have opportunity, especially now. We didn't have this when we were younger with the internet.
Having the internet on a cell phone, my God.
Mhm.
If I would have had that at the age of 12 or 13 or 14, man, I'd be a different person probably.
Right.
It could be even as simple as take these classes, take these courses, do this training, get a certification in something, start towards a degree. follow down this path. And it's like, dude, you could do that all
Mhm.
online with no one even knowing the wiser.
No, very with anyone, yeah, you're absolutely right, without anyone even knowing. You're absolutely right.
I want to ask a question. Okay,
Mhm.
first of all, we have the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 988. There's groups like AA where you can go and meet with qualified people who are spreading good messages about sobriety and how to be a human.
Mhm.
I think that any person can go to a designated safe place location and find safety there, because
Yeah.
sometimes they're at like
Mhm.
QT. You can ask QT to call the cops for you or the fire department. There's all these little things that we have. So, I mean, is there anything like that that you know of that you could share?
I wish I did. I need to be better prepared for this next time. I wish I did because there should be. I mean, I know I know CPS can only do so much. The authorities can only do so much. But I would say if you're a kid in school, talk to your counselor, talk to a trusted
Oh,
teacher.
yep.
Those are the people that can probably get you to the places that you're going to be able to figure it out.
I would add that the scariest part is probably the first time you talk to somebody with power about
Mhm.
what's going on at your house. That's probably the scariest time because you're just hardwired to not talk about that
Oh,
stuff.
I would agree. Yeah.
But it's worth it. We've all done it.
Well, and I think about the two lanes as well as we speak to maybe people that are listening that discover this podcast randomly. There's two lanes. There's a kid or maybe even someone in their 20s, like early 20s, who technically isn't a
Mhm.
child, but maybe with lack of experience, they still have an unknown about them. They could still fully believe.
Mhm.
And that's a whole nother area that's very difficult versus the person that's like, I don't believe any of this
Uh-huh.
shit, but I'm 16
Right.
years old.
Yeah, you're right.
And so there's a lot there. Obviously the person that doesn't believe, you have a different mindset. It's probably actually easier because your whole world reality isn't crumbling.
Mhm.
But there's resources for both parties. Know that there's forums, there's groups, there's people that have been through this before that are available for you. Trent included. Trent can help you.
Yeah.
He's always online, available to chat. I am as well. I kid, but yeah. So as we kind of close out, is there any final things that you wanted to say on the podcast? Maybe anything we missed? Maybe anything kind of message you wanted to deliver?
So, I mean, I'd love everybody to tune into the podcast I run, The Inspired Hustler. I love to interview other entrepreneurs and business minded people and talk about how they built their business and how they survive being an entrepreneur. I love like finding other people in the
Yeah.
community and helping, trying to find a way to lift them up and bring more attention to what they're doing.
And what is that specifically, so people can follow you? And we'll of course put that in the show notes.
Theinspiredhustler.com.
Love it, love it.
Thank you for coming on. I honestly am getting to
Yeah.
know Derek's family a
Yeah.
whole lot better.
Well, I feel like I know you already, Trent, because I've listened to all of the episodes with you guys. So you guys do such a great job. It was really really fun. Thanks for having
Thanks
me.
for being here.
Yeah, we're so thankful for you to come on. We really appreciate it, and of course, like everyone, you're always welcome back if you have any more to say. And I do look forward to the episode of me on your podcast
Yes.
whenever that comes out. So whenever that does happen, we'll send that stuff out as well, and people will finally be able to see me on camera.
Yeah,
Oh,
buddy.
I love it. I love it.
So thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey in this era. If you found today's episode valuable, please share it with someone who might need it. Check the podcast description for our socials and other information.
Please consider supporting us at Patreon at patreon.com/culturepod. If you'd like to tell your story, please contact us at cult.ture.pod@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay free.